You know, in all my years on this bench, and we're talking over 40 years here, you think you've seen everything. The desperate, the remorseful, the angry, the manipulative. But that Thursday morning in December, when a woman walked into my courtroom dripping in diamonds worth more than most houses, looked me directly in the eye, and committed an act so vile, so disrespectful, so shocking that it left the entire courtroom in stunned silence. That's when I realized some people truly believe their wealth places them above every rule of civilized society. Her name was Clarissa Vandermeer, 38 years old, wife of tech billionaire Richard Vandermeer, and what happened in the next 30 seconds changed her life forever. I remember getting to court that morning early like I always do. Been doing it for 40 years. My father taught me, Frank, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. So there I was, 8:20 a.m., reviewing my docket with a cup of coffee Christina made for me. Strong black coffee, the Italian way. And I see her name there, Clarissa Marie Vandermeer. The charges made my blood pressure rise just reading them. Vehicular assault, DUI, leaving the scene of an accident, and obstruction of justice. Christina leaned over and whispered, Judge, this one's going to be a circus. Her husband is Richard Vandermeer, the tech billionaire, worth $8 billion. They've already tried to get the case moved to federal court, tried to get it dismissed, tried everything. Their legal team has been calling the Attorney General's office daily. I looked at her and said, Christina, I don't care if her husband owns half of Silicon Valley. In this courtroom, money doesn't buy justice. It never has, and it never will. The case started 8 weeks earlier on a Friday night in late October. Clarissa Vandermeer had been driving her custom Bentley Bentayga, a $350,000 SUV with a vanity plate that read Clarissa 1, through downtown Providence at approximately 11:47 p.m. According to multiple witnesses, traffic camera footage, and police reports, she was driving erratically, weaving between lanes, running red lights, speeding excessively. At the intersection of Westminster and Dorrance, she ran a red light at approximately 60 miles per hour and T-boned a 2012 Honda Civic driven by Thomas Chen, a 29-year-old graduate student at Brown University studying biomedical engineering. Thomas was on his way home from the library where he'd been studying for midterm exams. He had the green light. He never saw Clarissa's Bentley coming. The impact was catastrophic. Thomas's Honda was crushed on the driver's side. The car spun twice and crashed into a light pole. Thomas was trapped inside, unconscious, bleeding from a severe head wound. His left arm was shattered. 3 ribs were broken. His left lung was punctured. He would spend 3 weeks in intensive care fighting for his life. And Clarissa Vandermeer, according to 7 witnesses who gave statements to police, she got out of her Bentley, stumbled, clearly intoxicated, looked at Thomas's crushed car with him trapped inside, and said loud enough for people to hear, "Stupid poor people in their cheap cars. Should have gotten out of my way." Then she got back in her Bentley, which was still drivable despite front-end damage, and drove away. A hit and run. But here's where it gets worse. Traffic cameras captured her license plate clearly. Police traced her to her Newport estate, a 15,000-square-foot mansion on Ocean Drive worth $47 million, and arrived at 1:15 a.m. to question her. According to Officer Daniel Santos's report, Clarissa answered the door in designer pajamas, clearly still intoxicated, and refused to cooperate. When Officer Santos asked if she'd been driving that evening, she said, "I don't talk to service workers. Get off my property." When Officer Santos explained that there had been a serious accident and they needed to question her, she called her attorneys. Within 30 minutes, 3 lawyers arrived from Boston. They refused to let police administer a breathalyzer or blood test. They threatened the police department with lawsuits. They claimed Clarissa had diplomatic immunity because her husband did business with foreign governments. It was a circus of obstruction. It took a warrant signed by a judge at 3 a.m. to get Clarissa to the police station. By then, over 3 hours had passed since the accident, enough time for alcohol to leave her system, which was exactly what her lawyers had been stalling for. But police had witnesses, video footage, and testimony from the emergency room doctor who'd smelled alcohol on her breath when paramedics brought Thomas in, and she'd briefly stopped at the hospital before fleeing. For 8 weeks, Clarissa's legal team had done everything possible to delay, obstruct, and derail the case. They filed motions to suppress evidence. They claimed the traffic cameras were unreliable. They tried to discredit witnesses. They offered Thomas Chen $5 million to drop all charges and sign a non-disclosure agreement. When Thomas refused, he wanted justice, not a payoff. They launched a media campaign painting him as an opportunist, trying to extort a wealthy family. So here we are, December 12th, 9 in the morning. Except Clarissa Vandermeer didn't arrive at 9. She arrived at 9:34 a.m., 34 minutes late, walking into my courtroom like she was walking into a charity gala where she was the guest of honor. She wore a white Chanel suit that probably cost $15,000. Her shoes were Manolo Blahnik, at least $1,500. Her handbag was a custom Hermes Kelly bag. I later learned those can cost upward of $100,000. But it was the jewelry that made everyone's jaw drop. Diamond earrings that had to be at least 5 carats each, catching the light like miniature chandeliers. A diamond necklace with stones so large they looked fake but definitely weren't. A diamond bracelet on each wrist, rings on 7 of her 10 fingers, every one of them sporting stones that would make Elizabeth Taylor jealous. Conservative estimate from a jeweler I asked later, over $2 million in jewelry. She was wearing more money on her body than most people would earn in their entire lives. Her hair was styled in that way that only comes from a $500 salon visit. Her makeup was professionally applied, flawless, like she was about to do a photo shoot for Vogue. Everything about her screamed wealth, privilege, and absolute certainty that she was untouchable. Behind her came her legal army, not a team, an army. 7 attorneys led by Harrison Blackstone, 67 years old, one of the most expensive criminal defense lawyers in America, known for representing billionaires and celebrities. He charged $2,000 per hour and had never lost a high-profile case. Behind him came 6 associates, all carrying expensive briefcases, all looking confident that money would win the day. Sitting in the front row of the gallery was Thomas Chen. He was in a wheelchair because his left leg still didn't work properly 8 weeks after the accident. His left arm was in a specialized brace, the fingers barely mobile after multiple surgeries to reconstruct the shattered bones. A scar ran across his forehead, where his head had hit the steering wheel. His face showed the exhaustion of someone dealing with chronic pain, medical bills exceeding $800,000, and the end of his graduate studies because he couldn't hold a pencil steady enough to write equations anymore. Next to Thomas sat his parents, who'd flown in from Taiwan when they heard about the accident. His mother held his hand, tears already in her eyes. His father's jaw was tight, his expression showing the controlled anger of a man watching his son's dreams die because of someone's reckless entitlement. "Mrs. Vandermeer," I said, looking directly at Clarissa, "you're 34 minutes late. This hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. Do you have an explanation for your tardiness?" Clarissa looked at me like I'd asked her to explain gravity. She didn't stand. She examined her manicured nails and said in a bored voice, "The traffic from Newport was dreadful. My driver took the wrong route. These things happen when you rely on staff." She blamed her driver for being late to her own criminal hearing. Harrison Blackstone stood quickly. "Your Honor, Mrs. Vandermeer extends her sincere apologies for the delay. Unforeseen circumstances." "Mr. Blackstone," I interrupted, "your client just blamed her driver for her being late to court. That's not an apology. That's an excuse that shows she takes no personal responsibility for anything." Clarissa was checking her phone now, scrolling through something. I could see she was looking at what appeared to be shopping websites, browsing handbags while facing felony charges. "Mrs. Vandermeer," I said firmly, "put the phone away and stand up when I'm addressing you." She looked up slowly, clearly annoyed. "I'm checking my calendar. I have a very important luncheon at 12:30 that I cannot miss. How long is this going to take?" The courtroom went dead silent. Even Harrison Blackstone looked shocked. "Mrs. Vandermeer, you're facing felony charges that could result in 10 years in prison. You're not going to any luncheon. Put the phone away now." She sighed dramatically, like I was being completely unreasonable, and dropped the phone into her $100,000 handbag. "Mrs. Vandermeer, you're charged with vehicular assault causing serious bodily injury, driving under the influence of alcohol, leaving the scene of an accident, and obstruction of justice. These are serious felonies. Do you understand?" "Your Honor," she interrupted me, her voice carrying that particular tone of someone used to being the most important person in every room. "I think we can dispense with the theatrics. My husband has authorized a very generous settlement offer. Mr. Chen will receive $10 million. That's more money than his entire family will ever see in their lifetimes. All charges will be dropped. I'll make a charitable donation to some police fund or whatever. Everyone wins. Can we move this along? I set down my pen carefully. Mrs. Vandermeer, this is a criminal proceeding, not a business negotiation. You can't buy your way out of felony charges. She actually laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. Your Honor, with all due respect, of course I can. That's how the world works. My husband is worth $8 billion. We have relationships with senators, governors, judges at every level. I'm not being arrogant. I'm being realistic. Money solves problems. This is a problem. Therefore, money will solve it. Harrison Blackstone was whispering frantically to her, clearly trying to get her to stop talking. She ignored him completely. Your Honor, Blackstone interjected, standing quickly. Perhaps we could take a brief recess so I could consult with my client. Sit down, Mr. Blackstone. Your client wants to talk. Let her talk. I turned back to Clarissa. Mrs. Vandermeer, Mr. Chen refused your settlement offer because he wants justice, not money. He wants you held accountable for nearly killing him. Clarissa's face twisted into an expression of contempt. She looked at Thomas Chen in his wheelchair for the first time. Accountable? For what? An accident? These things happen. That's why people have insurance. He should be grateful I'm offering him $10 million. He was driving a $5,000 Honda. His entire life isn't worth $10 million. I'm being more than generous. The courtroom erupted in angry whispers. Thomas Chen's mother started crying. His father stood up, looking like he wanted to say something, but Thomas put his hand on his father's arm and shook his head. Mrs. Vandermeer, I said, controlling my anger. Mr. Chen is a graduate student who is studying to become a biomedical engineer. He wanted to develop treatments for cancer. Because of your drunk driving, he can't hold a pencil. He can't write equations. His career is over. And you just said his entire life isn't worth $10 million. She shrugged. I'm being practical, Your Honor. He's a graduate student from a middle-class family. I'm offering him more money than he would have earned in his entire career. If he was smart, he'd take it and be grateful. Ms. Chen, I said to the prosecutor, please present the state's evidence. Jennifer Chen stood. She'd been working this case for 8 weeks, fighting through endless motions and delays. Your Honor, the state has video evidence, witness testimony, and medical records. May I present them? Please do. Please. The lights dimmed. The first video appeared. Traffic camera footage from the intersection of Westminster and Dorrance. Timestamp, October 27th, 11:47 p.m. Crystal clear footage showed Clarissa's Bentley approaching at high speed. The traffic light was bright red. Thomas Chen's Honda was crossing the intersection with the green light. The Bentley never slowed down. It slammed into the Honda's driver's side with tremendous force. The Honda spun twice and crashed into a light pole. The second angle showed Clarissa getting out of her Bentley. She stumbled, clearly intoxicated. She walked toward the Honda, looked at Thomas trapped inside, bleeding. Then she turned and walked back to her Bentley. You could read her lips clearly. Stupid people. She got back in her car and drove away. The third video, from a nearby business security camera, showed Clarissa's Bentley leaving the scene, the license plate clearly visible, CLRSSA1. When the lights came back on, the courtroom was silent except for Thomas's mother crying. Clarissa was checking her nails again, completely unbothered. Mrs. Vandermeer, I said, you just watched yourself drive drunk, hit Mr. Chen's car, look at him bleeding and trapped, and drive away. Do you have anything to say? She looked at Harrison Blackstone, who was shaking his head emphatically. She ignored him. Your Honor, that video doesn't prove I was drunk. I had 2 glasses of wine at dinner. That's not illegal. And the accident happened because Mr. Chen's car was in the intersection. I had the right of way. Mrs. Vandermeer, the video clearly shows you ran a red light. Mr. Chen had the green light. Traffic lights are notoriously unreliable. The timing could have been off. My experts will testify. Mrs. Vandermeer, 7 witnesses gave statements saying you were driving drunk and ran a red light. She waved her hand dismissively. Witnesses are unreliable. They see what they want to see, especially when they know there's a wealthy defendant. They're probably hoping for money. I couldn't believe the callousness. Mrs. Vandermeer, you left Mr. Chen bleeding and trapped in his car. You drove away. That's a hit and run. I left because I was in shock. I needed to get somewhere safe to process what happened. That's a normal psychological response to trauma. My therapist will testify to that. She had an excuse for everything. No remorse. No accountability. Just excuses and justifications. Mrs. Vandermeer, when police came to your house, you refused to cooperate. You refused a breathalyzer. You called them service workers. She actually smiled. Your Honor, I know my rights. The Fifth Amendment protects me from self-incrimination. I exercised my constitutional rights. And yes, police officers are public servants, service workers. That's not an insult, it's an accurate description. Harrison Blackstone stood up. Your Honor, my client has been fully cooperative within the bounds of her constitutional rights. Your client obstructed justice for 3 hours while alcohol left her system, Mr. Blackstone. Clarissa stood up suddenly. Your Honor, I think we've wasted enough time on this. My husband is prepared to make a very substantial contribution to the Providence Police Department. $2 million for new equipment, training, whatever they need. We'll pay Mr. Chen's medical bills and give him $10 million. Everyone benefits. Can we please end this charade? Mrs. Vandermeer, sit down. I will not. I'm offering a very generous resolution to a situation that was clearly an accident. If you refuse to accept it, then you're the one being unreasonable. My husband has connections to every level of government in this state. One phone call and this case disappears. I'm trying to do this the polite way. Was she threatening me? Mrs. Vandermeer, are you threatening this court? I'm stating facts. My husband's wealth gives us options you can't even imagine. Judges can be influenced. Cases can be moved. Evidence can be challenged. I'm offering you an easy way out. Take it. I stood up from my bench. When I stand, everyone knows something significant is about to happen. Mrs. Vandermeer, you need to stop talking right now. Or what? She stepped closer to my bench, her diamond jewelry sparkling. What are you going to do? Hold me in contempt? Fine me? My husband will write a check before lunch. You have no power over me. None. I could buy this entire courthouse and turn it into a shopping mall. I could buy you 10 times over. You're nobody. I'm Clarissa Vandermeer. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Everyone was holding their breath. Mrs. Vandermeer, I said quietly, step back from the bench. Make me. She smiled. That same condescending smile. That's what I thought. You can't. Because you know what happens to judges who cross people like my husband. They don't get reelected. They don't get appointed to higher courts. They end up retiring early. So why don't you? And then she did it. Clarissa Vandermeer, standing 3 feet from my bench, looked directly at me, smiled, and spit. Actually spit at me. The saliva hit my robe, just below my nameplate. For 1 second, the entire courtroom was frozen in absolute shock. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even Clarissa seemed surprised by what she'd just done, her eyes widening slightly. Then everything happened in exactly 30 seconds. Bailiff, I said, my voice like steel. Arrest Mrs. Vandermeer immediately for assault on a judicial officer. 2 bailiffs moved forward. Clarissa backed away. You can't arrest me. Do you know who I am? Place her in handcuffs. Now. The bailiffs grabbed her arms. She tried to pull away. Get your hands off me. This suit costs $15,000. You're damaging it. I'll sue you. I'll sue everyone. They handcuffed her. Her diamond bracelets clinked against the metal cuffs. This is insane. Harrison, do something. Call my husband. Call the governor. This can't be happening. Mrs. Vandermeer, I said, looking at her directly. You just committed assault on a judge in open court. You threatened this court. You showed zero remorse for nearly killing a man, and you spit on me. Her face had gone from confident to terrified. I didn't mean it was an accident. I'm sorry. You're not sorry. You're scared. There's a difference. I turned to the prosecutor. Ms. Chen, add assault on a judicial officer to the charges. Mrs. Vandermeer will be held without bail until trial. What? Clarissa screamed. You can't hold me without bail. I have rights. Harrison Blackstone was on his feet, pale as a ghost. Your Honor, surely bail can be set. Your client just spit on a judge, Mr. Blackstone. She's demonstrated complete contempt for this court and the law. She's a flight risk with unlimited resources. No bail. Your Honor, Mrs. Vandermeer has no criminal record. Your client left a man bleeding and nearly dying, showed zero remorse, threatened this court, and assaulted a judge. She will remain in custody at the Women's Correctional Facility until trial. Clarissa was crying now, her perfect makeup running down her face. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'll apologize to Mr. Chen. I'll donate money. Please don't send me to jail. I have a spa appointment Friday. I have a charity gala next week. I can't go to jail. You should have thought about that before you spit on a judge. My husband will fix this. He'll call people. You'll be removed from the bench. This isn't over. Take her away. As the bailiffs led her toward the holding cells, Clarissa was still screaming, "This is illegal. I'm Clarissa Vandermeer. You can't do this to me. My husband is worth $8 billion. I don't belong in jail. Harrison, fix this. Someone fix this." But nobody could fix it. She disappeared through the door, her $15,000 suit wrinkled, her $2 million in jewelry sparkling under the fluorescent lights of the holding area, her voice echoing back, "This isn't happening. This can't be real." The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Then slowly, people started clapping. Thomas Chen was crying, but smiling. His parents were holding him. Even some of the attorneys in the gallery were nodding in approval. 4 months later, Clarissa Vandermeer stood trial. The evidence was overwhelming. The videos, the witnesses, the medical records, and the assault on me, witnessed by everyone in that courtroom. The jury deliberated for 6 hours and found her guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in state prison. No special treatment, no early release. She would serve her time like every other inmate. Thomas Chen attended the sentencing. When asked if he wanted to make a victim impact statement, he said something I'll never forget. "I don't hate Mrs. Vandermeer. I pity her. She's 38 years old, and she's never learned that wealth doesn't make you better than other people, that money doesn't exempt you from consequences, that every human life has value. I hope prison teaches her what 8 billion never did: humility, empathy, and basic human decency." Clarissa Vandermeer served 6 years before being released on parole. Her husband divorced her while she was in prison. She lost everything: the mansion, the jewelry, the lifestyle. She issued a public apology and paid Thomas Chen $15 million in civil damages. Thomas used the money to complete his graduate studies at a different university. He became a biomedical researcher working on treatments for traumatic brain injuries. He published papers that have helped thousands of accident victims recover. If this story moved you, remember this: the moment Clarissa Vandermeer spit on me, she learned that no amount of wealth, no husband's billions, no political connections can protect you when you cross the line into assaulting a judge. In 30 seconds, her life changed forever. That's not revenge, that's justice. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, sometimes the best judgment is not in the book, it's in your heart. But when someone believes their wealth places them so far above the law that they can literally spit on a judge, both the book and the heart say the same thing. Everyone, absolutely everyone, faces consequences. Court adjourned.